listeners, and welcome to Teachers Have Issues. Yes, you are here with me in season 3 finale. I am your host, Lana the Educator. If you're a first-time listener on this channel, welcome. Here we explore the latest educational trends, tackle pressing issues facing the education sector, and conduct insightful interviews with people making a difference. We also share stories of triumph and innovation from around the globe. If you're interested in all of this, then like and subscribe. Today on Teachers Have Issues, yes, I welcome my guest, Nicole Paul. Nicole is a certified sign language interpreter with a master's degree in special and inclusive education from the University of Sheffield, UK. Her passion for deaf people and sign languages led her to create the NGO Caribbean Sign Language Center. She is the executive director of this NGO, a full-time special education teacher, and an active sign language interpreter with commitments to both the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago Television. Ms. Paul thanks God for the opportunities to raise awareness about the impact, challenges, and benefits of deafness. She counts among her greatest achievements the introduction of deaf interpreters to the Trinidad and Tobago public via the national budget presentations each year. Nicole is also an author. She has published in the Caribbean Educational Research Journal on social justice and students with disabilities, and has written letters about critical deaf issues that have been published in our local newspapers. Most recently, she has co-authored Enable books with her colleague, the distinguished special educator, Miss Eka McPhee, to teach hearing persons to sign and to enable students with disabilities to see themselves as capable contributors while helping them learn to read. We welcome to Teachers Have Issues, yes, Nicole Paul. Welcome, Nicole.
Oh, thank you, Lana. It's great to be here. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. All right. So, Nicole, tell us, how long have you been teaching at this school for the deaf?
Well, I've been teaching at the School for the Deaf, my dear, more years than I'd like to say. I have been a teacher at the School for the Deaf since 1990.
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
good.
so
Good.
yeah, it's been a while, but I must say that while at times it has been challenging, it has also been really wonderful. Don't let anybody fool you. It's challenging, but it's great.
And I saw that in the write-up that you sent, you established the Caribbean Sign Language Center. So how did you move into creating such a center? What was your thought process behind doing that?
It is something that I feel honestly I had to do. Because Lana, honestly, when you become part of the deaf community,
Mhm.
you begin to get a little bit of a better feel for the kinds of issues and challenges deaf people face. But in terms of myself, what really happened is that well, I grew up in Belmont. I was a town girl,
Mhm.
and my very best friends were my neighbors who were in the apartment next to ours, and they had a deaf son who quickly taught me that deaf people are people too,
Mhm.
and that they are very much exactly our equals, meaning hearing people in every sense of the word. And I'm glad I had that experience when I was a child growing up. He would whip my skin at drafts and chicken pots. And yeah, he opened my eyes pretty quickly
Mhm.
because he was very bright and he was very capable.
Mhm.
And what happened that really caused me to want to start the NGO that I did, Caribbean Sign Language Center, is the fact that my really good friend, when he passed, it was common entrance at the time. He
Mhm.
was 2 years younger than myself. When he passed common entrance, when I passed common entrance, I went happily off to my first choice, you know?
Mhm.
Um, I had no problems at all. But when he passed common entrance at that time, he had to stay home an entire year because there were no teachers
Mhm.
at the secondary school level that were in a position to accommodate him.
Mhm.
He was not able to be accommodated even though he had passed. And I understood immediately and my sense of social justice was sparked because I am hearing and I'm able to go off to secondary school, no problems. And here's my friend, he's deaf and he can't go just because he's deaf. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, no, man, as soon as I'm able, when I'm older, I am going to become a teacher of the deaf, one, and two, I'll find a way to change things. So that's where it all started for me.
Amazing. That's an amazing story, though. And you see how much people impact our lives, that has a resonating and a lasting impact. So, um, did you have any challenges establishing the Caribbean Sign Language Center? What kind of challenges did you have, if any?
Yeah, what I find happened is that, okay, first, we are a properly registered organization, so we had to go through the process. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that can, some things you have to do over and get it right and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And once we got the paperwork done and got started, it was just me alone. So I tried to do everything and be everybody. And you would recall that well, it's not that you would recall, but the fact that I started teaching in 1990, it's
Uh-huh.
because as soon as I finished my A level, sixth form, I was interviewed and God smiled on me and I got to do what I dreamt of always doing.
Right.
So my job at Cascade School for the Deaf was my first job
Mhm.
and it has remained my beautiful job. And what you find happening is that I didn't know anything at all about starting an NGO and about the kind of persistence that you'd have to apply and
Mhm.
the kinds of things you ought to know in terms of law and in terms of so it was a lot to learn. I was on a steep learning curve
Right.
until finally the Lord sent me the right people to help me after I had been dealing with it a couple of years. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, where is the Caribbean Sign Language Center located in Trinidad?
Oh, we are located at Central, and it's a good place to be. We're right in the middle, so we're able to go north, south, Tobago, wherever. We're located at Chagonas, Londonville to be exact.
Mm-hmm.
And like most other entities, we find that we do a lot of what we have to do online now.
Mm-hmm.
Some, for example, just running my the NGO,
Mm-hmm.
our admin team.
Mm-hmm.
Two of the members of the team are based in the UK.
Right.
And well, besides me in Trinidad, there is another person also
Mm-hmm.
in Trinidad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's my board. And, so we communicate and set up and arrange things and make it happen. All at the basis being that we want to see deaf people in Trinidad and Tobago and by extension the Caribbean
Mm-hmm.
being able to advance and it's a big thing for us. We talk about deaf equality and we do our best to do what we can to help the process advance.
What do you do at this school? Is it a primary school, a secondary school? What does the structure look like? And who can come into the center, I guess.
Okay, anyone can come into the center. We
Mm-hmm.
have taught persons as young as 6 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and the age of our oldest person would probably be 80. What we do at the Caribbean Sign Language Center,
Mm-hmm.
we ensure that we provide sign language classes from beginner to advanced. We
Mm-hmm.
also provide professional interpretation services,
Mm-hmm.
and we try to meet people where they are. For example, if we are told about a parent who is deaf who needs to have an interpreter at a PTA meeting, we
Mm-hmm.
would try to fulfill that need. Or, as you would have mentioned, up to the highest levels, that would be the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago
Right.
or doing national awards. We do that with equal aplomb and professionalism. We
Right.
believe in always giving our best. That is what we're about. And I am happy to say that so far our clients have always agreed with that. They feel that, yeah, we give them our best and they're happy.
What is the public's response been to the introduction of deaf interpreters at these various levels, at national budget presentation, at the parliament? What has been the public's response to that?
Well, I'm happy to say that it has been mostly overwhelmingly positive. I
Great.
think that Trinidad and Tobago is evolving and we are becoming more aware that the value of a nation, of a country,
Mhm.
is often measured by the manner in which we deal with our most vulnerable.
Mhm.
And I think that Trinidad and Tobago is definitely getting there. We have been told over and over, yes, great job. We're so happy you guys are there because deaf people need to be included. It is part of the awarding of license to major entities like media bodies and houses that
Mhm.
they must provide sign language interpreting for the deaf and hard of hearing population to be able to get their information in real time. Yeah. So
Mhm.
that's why we are on the news and so on. And of course, there's still some people who don't understand what we are about. And those people we are hoping very hard to convert and to get them to understand. Yes, it may look like fun and games.
Mhm.
And yes, we all know what happened in South Africa, but
Yes.
but no, sign language interpreting is serious business, and we do it to the very best of our ability. It is not just about making antics and having fun. It's about making sure we get the message across to deaf people in real time, as clearly as possible, making sure that we convey the emotions and that we convey all that is put into the message so that the deaf person is able to benefit and get the fullness of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, as you mentioned, a lot of people might remember the South Africa, but then you also have them with the Rihanna concert, and now so many popular artists having deaf interpreters, doing their music and so forth, and you're seeing a different aspect than you might have seen. Because I think most of us might have been familiar with more formal settings, even some of the settings you have
Thank
mentioned,
you.
parliament and
You
news
know,
and interpreting and stuff like that for foreign nationals on TV, but to see interpreters in a different context, I think enthralled a lot of people worldwide, seeing them in concerts and music concerts and things like that. I remember the first time I saw an interpreter on national TV here, local, and I think I was more enthralled with watching the interpreter, even though I didn't understand what was happening, than the actual newscast. And I think that captivated a lot of people seeing that there. And you like myself, I didn't think, you don't think about it until you see that it is there. You didn't think that something was missing, but then I sat down and I thought, they're hard of hearing and deaf people, but they're not blind. So the news is on every night, and an entire population of people don't have access to it. So seeing that was, very welcome and interesting, I think, inclusion in the public sphere, in the media sphere. And I'm guessing your organization would have had a major part to play in having interpreters on the news, on the national news.
we're so happy to say yes, we were the pioneers. We're the
Mhm.
first ones there.
Mhm.
And we continue to be there and we continue to really do our best to ensure that, yeah, deaf people get the type of service that they deserve, which is
Right.
excellent service, and that they are included and that they know what is going on. Because, Lana, for example, okay, if we have, and that's the times we live in, if
Mhm.
a hurricane is coming,
Mhm.
some natural disaster happens, God forbid, I mean, if you were deaf, wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you
Yes,
need the information
yes,
one time? Wouldn't
yes.
you need to know where to go? Wouldn't you need to know what services are available? Wouldn't you need to know that in order to live?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't remember that. But
Right.
I'm happy that a lot more people are waking up and that you are affording me the opportunity to really highlight this,
Yeah.
to all your listeners right through the Caribbean, that this is important to people's lives
Yeah,
and what we do makes a difference. And we
it
need
does.
to get more people to learn to sign, a lot more people to understand sign language. I see your beautiful beam and smile. I'll come and teach you. We need to really get that message out that deaf people need people to learn to sign so that we all will be included. And that is just how it's supposed to be. We're all
Mhm.
human beings. Surely, if we can take the step of making sure that your language is different, it's sign language, you learn it,
Mhm.
that you're included, that you have an equal stake, we
Mhm.
need to do this.
All right.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that you're grateful, well, at least in your bio, for the opportunity to raise awareness about the impact and the challenges of deafness. What do you believe are some critical misconceptions people have about the deaf community?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. There are quite a few.
Mhm.
All right, let's begin with the pet peeve. We recently had a competition in International Week of the Deaf, which is September 23rd every year, is Sign Language Day.
Mhm.
But in International Week of the Deaf, we ran a competition at CSLC. This was called Right On, right? It
Mhm.
was for deaf and hard of hearing persons within our community. And the focus of Right On was what, as a deaf person, gets you peeved? What bothers you? What really you'd like hearing Trinidad and Tobago to know? So I
Right.
could tell you some of the peeves off the bat straight from the winner, right? The pet peeve, the number one pet peeve was that people insist on continuing to say things like deaf and dumb, deaf mute, um, saying that a deaf person is hearing impaired, which they don't appreciate. Now,
Oh.
you and I would think that that is being politically correct to say
Mhm, mhm,
hearing impaired, but deaf people hate it. They say,
mhm.
no, I'm not impaired.
No.
Nothing is wrong with me. I'm not broken in need of being fixed.
Mhm,
It's a whole matter of deaf pride.
mhm.
I am deaf, God made me, so I'm fine. I just use a different language. And if more people would learn it, things will go just fine, So it's important because who wants to be called dumb? I
No.
sure don't. Yeah, I'm sure you don't either.
Um,
And people routinely say it. They say, oh, this is a deaf and dumb person. Deaf people are not dumb.
mhm.
Mm-mm, right? Not even in the sense of, as in having no voice, because most times deaf people, do have,
Right.
that pro- ability to produce sound. But people call them that all the time. It's a label they could do without.
So what
So
should
that
we
was the
call,
number
what
one
should we
pet
say
peeve.
for knowledge, for education, for our own edification? What is the terminology if you want to be correct, politically correct? Is it just that we say deaf?
That's
What?
correct, ma'am. You
Okay.
hit the nail on the head. Deaf people say, I am deaf, okay? It's
Right.
like one of the final frontiers in terms of persons striving, groups striving for equality and so on. You have yeah, we have deaf pride is a real thing.
Mhm,
And deaf people say, I'm deaf, call me deaf, that's it. I'm good. Deaf or hard of hearing. Yeah,
mhm.
and they're fine with that.
Okay.
All right.
That's the
So that
one.
was number one
Right.
challenge. Other challenges that deaf people face are kind of linked to that first one, which is
Mhm,
it's not that a deaf person cannot do the job, it's often that people have ingrained attitudes and
mhm,
biases and they discriminate. And they think that no, this person cannot do it. And
mhm,
so deaf people find, you say women have a glass ceiling,
mhm,
deaf people have triple glass ceilings
mhm,
because people honestly think that hey you know they're deaf, this might happen, that might happen, and what you find happening in the end is that the deaf person is unable to fulfill their potential and act like a normal human being because of the fears of the hearing people, being overly protective or concerned or worried about the deaf person's safety or about their ability without giving them the opportunity to maximize that ability.
mhm,
So you find that this affects your life in a really serious way if you're deaf,
mhm,
that you cannot do the jobs you would like to do, you cannot get where you'd like to get to. And that is linked again to the other thing, which is that services or the lack thereof.
Right.
Now, Lana, if you and I decided as educators
Mm.
that we wanted to go a little further, we wanted to study this, that, or the other, we go and we check, what about TV? What about going online? Whatever, whatever.
Mhm.
But the deaf person, girl, they have to think twice and three times because to be able to find the services that they need, in particular that sign language interpreting service. There's a really true story. There's a person that I know personally, and he went to one of our universities, a long-established university, and he wanted to study engineering, and he was accepted and everything. And they said, you have to do this course without an interpreter. And when he was floundering and he realized, hey, I really can't make it, he went back to them and said, listen, please just provide me with an interpreter because I can't cope.
Mhm.
And they said, I'm sorry, we don't have the budget for that.
Hmm.
And he dropped out. This affects your life seriously. And it's not until at another university, which was started after,
Mhm.
here in Trinidad and Tobago, that he went there. And they have a whole unit set up. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to do engineering. He
Mm.
became a teacher of the deaf, and
Mm.
he's an excellent one and
Yeah.
a good member of CSLC. But what we're saying is, deaf people who want to study, deaf people who want to advance, they want to do courses, can't do it because not not being provided with that kind of support. And
Mhm.
we continue not to have the IDEA, that is the laws that protect people with disabilities. We
Mhm.
don't have it here in Trinidad.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that Lana will use her podcast to galvanize people into action. We need
Sure.
to get it down here.
Sure.
I'll stop now. You go ahead.
Let's go a bit into special education and looking at students and so forth in school in terms of, I'm curious too, in terms of mainstream integration. I know in my own school life and in practice, I've seen blind students, but I don't think I've ever interacted like in my own school life with somebody who was deaf, even though I know that they had like a deaf school and all of that. So what is for students who transition into mainstream school, how do you prepare them to navigate those environments where sign language might not be widely understood? You were speaking about the gentleman who wanted to go to university. How did you help along? Well, how would your organization help them transition to these mainstream schools?
Okay. Now, what you find happening is that the Ministry of Education has sought a place at the secondary school level.
Mhm.
Well, first of all, of course, they're responsible. It is the Ministry of Education that
Mhm.
is responsible for providing teachers at primary school level in terms of providing them with their remuneration, right? Because some
Mhm.
people are under the impression that maybe they're paid elsewhere. No, they're paid via the Ministry of Education.
Mhm.
And that is how it is at primary school level. At
Mhm.
secondary school level now, what you find happening is that you have just two schools in the north of Trinidad where deaf people are accommodated and have been for years.
Mhm.
That is at El Dorado, where we call them El Blue, which is really El Dorado East, secondary.
Okay.
And then at Southeast, the Port of Spain,
Mhm.
right? They are the two schools where there are units, if you want to call it that, set up to ensure that deaf children are educated at secondary school.
Okay.
There was a unit in the south, meaning there was a school in the south where a deaf child could also go, where there's a service provided of the special education teacher, and now there are interpreter assistants as well.
Okay. Excellent.
Um, in Tobago, no, we don't have that facility provided at all. So if you're in Tobago and you do pass for secondary school,
Mhm.
somebody will have to be sought to help you at secondary school. But traditionally, no. And this is serious because what do you just imagine if you did SEA now and you had just a choice of two schools,
Mhm.
basically, right? But I must say, I believe the Ministry of Education is trying to deal with this, and it is difficult to find persons who are, like trained, ready to go, and able to provide that kind of support at secondary school level. it's difficult to find that type of person.
Mhm.
But we had recently a student who went on to secondary school, and he lived all the way up in Sandy Grande.
Mhm.
And yes, the ministry did provide. So I think that, in a climate where we tend to say, hey, nothing's going on and nothing's going good, when
Mhm.
it's going good, you need to say it's going good.
Right.
So that help was provided to the student, and now another student who lives at Togo has joined that first student.
Okay.
And yes, someone was sent to make it possible for them to be educated closer to home.
Mhm.
And I think that that is a plus.
Yes,
So
definitely.
things are improving, but as with everything else, but slowly. But we're happy that that is happening. Yeah.
Mhm. So I'm imagining these students going into, because you mentioned two schools where it's, the general population, general student population, SA population going in there, and they are going into hearing dominated spaces. So how do you teach your students to advocate for themselves in such spaces?
Girl, that is such a good question.
Mhm.
What really needs to happen, even before we talk about the students advocating for themselves,
Mhm.
there needs to be some preparation before the student gets there. Definitely, there is need to have a chat with the administration of the school
Mhm.
and ensure that, okay, attempts are being made so that before the deaf student arrives there, that the staff and the student population
Mhm.
is taught sign language so that communication may not necessarily be an obstacle, because once you learn to sign,
Mhm.
and learning to sign is not that difficult. Once you learn to sign, you cover the basics. You are able to make sure that your deaf person feels comfortable and included, your hard of hearing person feels appreciated, and everybody is able to get along with an equal stake. But what you find happening a lot is that, there isn't any proper avenue set up to ensure that this happens.
Mhm.
And so it is maybe not as inclusive as we'd like it to be, to put it quite simply. And you would find that if one, the special ed teacher and
Mhm.
the interpreters and a few interested students learn to sign,
Mhm.
then you find that it's a bit limiting for the deaf student in terms of going forward and everybody understanding and communicating. So
Mhm.
then if you have the type of student who is outgoing and brave and confident and able to say, well, listen, I can teach you to sign, or can we start a sign language club here at school?
Right.
Or I know some people at CSLC who would come in and help and y'all would learn. Yeah, that kind of thing would be marvelous,
Mhm.
because I know someone who did that at Southeast and she's retired now. Miss Benedict Morrell, because
Mhm.
when I went down there at Southeast, she would take the students and say, hey, we're going to learn to sign, and have groups of students learning the national anthem and stuff in sign language. And it
Mhm.
was lots of fun.
Mhm.
And everybody learned, and the students prospered as a result of this kind of interaction. So all
Mhm.
it takes is, the song, you got to try a little kindness, show a little kindness, shine the light for everyone to see. Yeah, it really is like that. If
Mhm.
people would just be a little more thoughtful, hey, coming in, we need to provide that support. What can we do? How
Right.
can we learn? Who do we need? How do we get it started? And things can happen. And I personally believe, because I've seen it happen,
Mhm.
that, just that little push, it happens.
Right.
Lashmi Girls is an example of a school that is very forward thinking, and they have a wide range of um, extracurricular events that they offer their students during curricular time, during
Mhm.
school time.
Mhm.
They have a certain portion of time on a
Mhm.
Tuesday in which they encourage their girls to learn chess or
Mhm.
learn sewing
Mhm.
or learn sign language or learn to sing or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
And the girls enjoy it and they bloom. And we go there and we teach sign language.
Mhm.
And it is fun and it employs our deaf people, which
Mhm.
is one of the tenets of Caribbean Sign Language Center. One of the reasons why we exist is that we want to provide deaf people with employment. And what employment? Who to teach you to sign better than a deaf person,
Mhm.
right? So we have deaf and hearing teams. The hearing person goes with the deaf person at first, makes the introduction, allays the fears, says, Lana, listen, learning sign language from a deaf person is not scary. They don't bite, they teach very well. If you don't understand something, we
Yeah.
can communicate. We could write it down. You could text my phone. But yeah, we can get along. This is just one planet we on, and we all got to get along in it, right?
Mhm.
And we find our deaf people that we train and work with, they go and invariably the classes say, wow, we had such a good time
Mhm.
with Sabrik. Oh, we had such a good time with Valdana. We had such a good time with Carla. These are all deaf tutors.
Right.
And and they're surprised. Cheryl was, wow, it's amazing. We want her back next year. We hear those comments all the time. So
Mhm.
we strongly advocate deaf hearing teams. And
Mhm.
as soon as the hearing person makes sure that everybody's comfortable, they just check in once in a while to make sure things are going well. And deaf person runs the show.
Right. Good.
It works.
Excellent. So, how do you think the early development of sign language impacts deaf students' overall progress or academic progress?
Oh, I think it makes all the difference, Lana.
Mhm.
Just the other day, that issue was raised, the fact that here in Trinidad and Tobago, if you are deaf, and most of our deaf people worldwide are born into families where the parents are in fact hearing.
Mhm.
We're talking about over 80%, right, of
Mhm.
instances.
Mhm.
And what you find happening is that many times, first of all, the hearing parent doesn't get the right information, what to do, and they're scared of sign language many times, which is
Mhm.
unfortunate because it has been proven scientifically that you use one language as scaffolding to learn another language. In other words, once you have sign language established from early, if you're deaf,
Right.
you use your knowledge of that language, sign language, to be able to work with your English or Spanish or French or whatever you're using a
Mhm.
lot better.
Mhm.
But growing up without language, my dear,
Mhm.
is putting you on disaster street because you find then that you have these language deficits which
Mhm.
develop, which pose the real challenge towards the education of the child and then the career or work life of the adult because they didn't get the foundation they needed as a child to do the exams, to pass them, to get the jobs, and so on. But before I get ahead of myself, I am happy to say at least now, there is interest in providing deaf children and hard of hearing children with preschools that that cater for people who are deaf. Before that, if you had a child today who
Yeah.
is deaf, Lana,
Yeah.
you are going to really scratch your head and wonder, where am I supposed to send my child, boy? Because there's, I mean, all the preschools, and we have good preschools in Trinidad and Tobago,
Mhm.
but we don't have any that cater for deaf children. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is has been, in my opinion, a major calamity because we have children coming to the schools for the deaf who are now like 6, 7, 8, and
Mhm.
sometimes even older, who
Mhm.
have never had the kind of exposure they need to have. Far less, listen, when a baby is in the womb, right? And growing. You're
Yeah.
told to talk to your baby, read
Yes.
stories to your baby,
Mhm.
sing to your baby.
Mhm.
All right. When the baby is deaf, all of that is just not happening. It's just flying past the ears. Baby is born. You coo to your baby. You talk to your baby. Even if you use baby language. Oh, Baba, you want to have your tea, right?
Mhm.
But when the baby is deaf, and you realize, hey, I'm not getting anything back. Baby's not smiling. Baby's not cooing. It tends to stop. and baby grows up language deprived unless you have the correct information and you know what to do, which
Yeah.
is to get someone to teach you and baby sign language as soon as possible so
Mhm.
that the child grows up knowing that a table is called a table and can read it in print too, that a floor is a floor, a chair is a chair, a light is a light, and doesn't grow up feeling totally confused and noticing, okay, they're flapping their lips again, but I have no idea what's going on. Let me try flapping my lips too. It doesn't do anything for me. You understand? But there's so much to be done, Lana.
Yeah.
Join the team, won't you?
Yes. What issues do you think teachers have?
Oh, we're talking about teachers in regular school presented with a deaf student, or we're talking about teachers in special school who always need to have more resources. Which one we deal with?
I'm going to be greedy and I'm going to take the answer to both.
Oh, I will know better than to ask that next time. Okay, I think what is happening most times is that teachers like myself in the system working specifically with deaf pupils, sometimes we would like to have a little bit more by
Mhm.
way of, for example, um, it would be nice if we were able to work along with speech therapists
Mhm.
so that students who come to us with beautiful voices could be made to use them. I'll tell you why.
Mhm.
I recently was helping a young man, an ex-student of our school, who was being interviewed for the prospect of having a job at a beautiful institution. It's a hotel, actually.
Mhm.
And, they were making the step forward. They wanted to include a deaf person and their staff. And, we all for that.
Mhm.
So, of course, we were there to assist and facilitate and sign. And the interviewer had a couple questions. They're like, he can read lips, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, he can to a certain extent because this is a bright pupil who spent his time trying to read lips.
Right.
But certainly, if we had that type of expertise at school, the training to make sure that we're able to maximize the students' use of their lip reading skills, develop those skills in the first case,
Mhm.
that would be wonderful.
Mhm.
And then, like I said, a lot of deaf children have quite usable voices within the regular speech range.
Mhm.
But to harness that potential and make sure that they've developed that ability, again, we could do with that. We
Mhm.
definitely could do with that.
Mhm.
And then there's the whole issue of being on the cutting edge of advances in terms of the teaching of math to deaf pupils, the teaching of English to deaf pupils, the teaching of creative writing to deaf pupils. Those things exist. We need access. Wouldn't
Mhm.
it be wonderful, Lana, if we were able to have exchange programs to let our students visit students from other schools in the Caribbean that are deaf like themselves, to
Mhm.
have our teachers visit established institutions where certain policies and practices are followed that allow deaf students to better maximize their learning opportunities because it's the latest data they are using to inform their teaching and so on. Yeah, those are the kinds of things teachers dream of, Gil.
Mhm.
But how to get the dream to turn into reality,
We need to
a
have
little
some
difficult.
conversations. We need to have some conversations, right? Some.
Yeah, some with the right people who would say, yeah,
Right.
man, we are willing to invest in this education of the deaf, and yeah, it could happen.
Mhm.
But I don't know, you probably have these nice contacts. You could link us up, girl.
I I'll definitely be thinking very hard and sending some to them, seeing how we can work things.
That
Yeah.
would be lovely because we really need to know what is happening out there and how best we can use them to help our students do better. And we really need to be able to enlarging our students' imaginations by exposing them also to what is available out in the world. Here we don't have like deaf lawyers and deaf actresses and those type of things. And they need to know, yeah, it is possible. It is possible. You know, if we could have a trip to Gallaudet every year or every 2 years, that'd be extremely wonderful. Gallaudet is the only all-deaf university in the world. It's in the
Where is it?
States.
In the
It's
United
in the
States?
United States, Washington, D.C., actually.
Oh.
It's my personal dream. I'll save the money and I intend to go to Gallaudet. Yeah, so it would be nice if these things can actually happen for our students because they need to know of a world beyond our Trinidad and Tobago limits
Mhm.
where deaf people, stride a bit more confidently because their societies have evolved to the point whereby they make sure that certain things are there.
Mhm.
And it begins with the education. We have to get with it and be able to access the latest technologies, methods, and use them in our classrooms. Yeah, that's what I think.
Good.
No, oh, you also asked about in the regular school.
Right.
Teachers need to know that yes, it is possible, and that that they can educate a deaf student, and it would go a long way if they knew sign language, if they felt comfortable around deaf people because we speak the same language. That would be so very helpful. I'm a strong advocate of teaching sign language. Just like we teach Spanish now at schools, you
Mhm.
should be teaching sign language to year one infants
Right.
and go right up through the school. That is my personal dream. I
Mhm.
would love to see it happen. And I'm prepared to work with anybody who says, yeah, let's do this and make it happen. Yeah.
This wasn't really going to be the question next here, but I'm sitting here thinking, how does your school address maybe the mental health needs of deaf students? When they might come across like isolation or communication barriers. Is that something that has come up?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
That tends to come up quite a bit. As a matter of fact, our school, I think, might be one of the few schools in Trinidad and Tobago where it was a standing joke. Um, it- there was a holiday, and nobody told this child it was a holiday somehow, right?
Mhm.
And the child got dressed, and the child, apparently her parents were out, and they were coming to school, and they're like, yeah, school is a place where a lot of deaf children want to be. They really want to be. Why? Because
Mhm.
people understand them there. People communicate with them there.
Mhm.
They have friends there. They laugh and talk there freely.
Mhm.
But addressing that is something that is necessary to do. We need to have conversations, as you said, with the right people to ensure that it is understood that, listen, what is needed for deaf people to progress with equality is inclusion. Make sure that the language, sign language, is learned and that people are respectful and that people understand that it is not a thing. It is not the thing to do to think it's okay to call deaf people dummy and
Mhm.
any other offensive terms that people sometimes use, and that ensuring that deaf people are not discriminated against in any way, that you have your place in the sun just like everybody else, not just because you're deaf, you'd be shunted to the side. And what we find is that it's really starts at home too, because long time ago when we did not have sign language interpreters on TV with the news, that people will ask their family, what is going on? What's going
Mhm.
on? And they will be told, shh, just now we go tell you because they're concentrating on the news
Mhm.
and they don't want to be interrupted. And
Mhm.
that has made that people feel mad and very isolated.
Mhm.
And you find as a result, when it comes down to the deaf community and the strength they have binding them together, it's because of the sense of, well, we're very isolated in this hearing world where the dominant culture is all about hearing people and very few people understand us. And I believe that as an organization and as a nation, that we are working towards changing this. And I say, let's try to do better. Yeah.
Right on. Now, you've authored works on social justice and disabilities, and you've published in academic journals and the local newspapers. Your latest project was Enable Books, and it was aimed at teaching hearing individuals to sign and empowering students with disabilities. So tell us about your inspiration behind this project and the process of creating the books.
Thank you. Well, honestly, Lana, it was seeing the need for deaf people to be able to read. That is the main impetus behind what we did. And I say we because my co-author is none other than Miss Eka McPhee. She was the 2018 Teacher of the Year, a dedicated young lady who really, takes education seriously. And we sat down and we said, we have got to address this. Um, there are no books at all that are, Caribbean in origin, TNT sign language, because, every country has their own sign language, right?
Yes, American,
So that's
Australian,
right. There's Jamaican Sign Language, Australian Sign Language, British Sign Language, and they're all different. But there
right?
was nothing reflecting our culture,
True.
nothing that showed doubles, nothing that showed, aspects of our carnival, nothing like that. So we
Right.
said, nah, man, we have got to deal with this because, of course, it's proven that if you have material that reflects the child's culture and ethos and family life and being, it tends to hold their interest more. It tends to
Right.
be stuff they relate to more, and it makes reading so much easier. So we did this it was the first of its kind in Trinidad and Tobago,
Bravo.
where we have books that are real local. So when you're going through the alphabet, you better believe D is for doubles, right? A is for Accra.
Right.
Well, besides food, there are other
Right.
things. And what we find happening is that children really gravitate towards the books and they love them because they are also, what makes it different is that when you take our books, you go online, you put in a code, which is at the start of every book.
Mhm.
And here I must mention the Rotary Clubs
Mhm.
of Trinidad and Tobago who have made it their business to support us in getting this out,
Right.
especially the online aspect.
Mhm.
Big up Rotary Club. You guys have been fantastic.
Mhm.
And really trying to reach as many deaf and hearing children as possible so that I'm really happy that we did this project. It is fantastic because when you go online and you see the videos, there's a big difference
Mhm.
between seeing a still picture of a sign
Mhm.
and actually seeing a video where the signing is done so that you can imitate. And
Right.
that is what these books do, Enable books do that, and it's all local,
Right.
It was that critical need for stories that included all children, because what made sure is that we showed children in wheelchairs in our stories. We showed children who were blind in our stories. That's why it's called enable, because too often, people tend to focus on the disability rather than the ability.
Right.
So enable books do a number of things on a number of levels. It attracts children, it attracts people in general, it teaches hearing students to sign by providing the videos where you see what is being done so you can follow.
Mhm.
And it gets deaf children to gravitate more to reading, which they normally stay far away from because they say, oh gosh, so many words, that hard.
Mhm.
Because remember, the challenge of deafness is just that. You're not hearing all these words. You don't know all these words. So anytime you see all these printed words, you go, oh, gee, do I really have to go through that? But not when it's accompanied by great local sign language, you know? And
Bravo.
we
Where can
really
we get
tried.
these books? Sorry to cut you, but where can we get the Enable book? Is this a digital book or it's a hard copy?
It's available in hard copy, my dear,
Mm.
because what we did is that, yeah, we took our own meager resources and we printed books,
Right,
and you can get them at Cannes on Frederick Street. You
right.
can get them in Tobago
Mm.
at Port Mall.
Mm.
Um, there's a bookstore there has them. You can
Mhm.
get them at various bookstores, but if you want to get Enable books, you could just call us and you can also place an order, and that would be no problem. You can call us at 377-3863, or you can call me personally. I don't mind, 712-9040, or you can call Miss Macri. And you would be able to, we put you in touch with, you know, getting your books.
Right. I'm certainly gonna see about getting one, and it's on record, so I definitely will have to get
Oh,
it. And I'm
thank you,
curious, you know,
Lana.
if I didn't invite you, I would not have known. You see how there's a whole world out there that you really don't know anything about. I would not have thought to go into the bookstore and ask for this, you
Yeah.
know. So now that I mean, know it's out there, people, you know, I'm curious. Come along with me and let's see if we can get some Enable books.
Certain
That's
bookstores have
mhm.
said, yeah, we'll take it, man, not a problem. But like you said, it's to get the word out. And that
Would-
was like, wow, big challenge. So
yeah,
that's why I said, thank you for the opportunity, Lana. I think what you're doing is great. You know, you
thank you.
focus on education and how to help our students, deaf, hearing, blind, it doesn't matter, how to get our students to do a little better. And I think you are worthy of the applause. Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to talk a bit about your work as a sign language interpreter, and you've been in high profile settings like the parliament and television and so forth. What are the unique demands of those particular roles, and how do you prepare yourself mentally for those responsibilities?
Oh, man, to tell the honest truth, I consider it a blessing. I really am grateful for the
Mm,
opportunity to do what we do through CSLC to
mm,
really um, provide that service
mhm,
for deaf people out there.
mm.
That said, trust me, it is not a walkover by any means. It
Right,
is demanding.
right.
It requires a whole lot of focus to do a
Mm,
proper job. It requires time to hone and develop your skills as a sign language interpreter.
mhm,
It also means you have to be a bit of an advocate because, like you just said a little while ago,
mm,
many times people don't know what is required of
mm,
them. So you have to choose to be an educator and to do it with a good spirit. For
mm,
example, you have to let people know, well, listen, sign language is all about expression. Deaf people hate looking at a poker-faced person signing to them. They don't like it at all because remember, sign language is a visual language and you
right.
are the instrument as a sign language interpreter carrying this message. If
Mhm,
you're signing about something happy, you
mhm.
better look happy, or else the deaf person would think, oh no, something is wrong.
Yes.
If you're signing about something catastrophic that has happened,
Mhm,
you need to express that, or else again, the deaf person will think, oh, it is not such a big deal after all, and
mhm.
not get the impact.
Right.
People fail to understand the need for the visuals to be on point and to match the message in every sense of the word at every level.
Yeah.
That's one of the important things to say. That said, do you know that to be a sign language interpreter, you have to be a master at both English language and sign language?
You
You
know that.
because you are shifting between those two languages, and you
Mhm,
have to have a familiarity and an appreciation of the complexities of both to
mhm,
be able to manage that shift well.
mhm.
If you are poor at English language, you have had difficulties with reading or that type of thing, it
Mhm,
is going to be a challenge for you to be a good sign language interpreter.
mhm,
Especially you mentioned some of the high profile areas that we function in, and it
mhm,
is true. And when our Minister of Finance is
mhm,
discussing various revenue producing aspects
mhm,
of the economy and how we intend to face the waves of the future and whatever, you better be able to manage the language. What
Mhm.
we tend to do at CSLC is before we go to do the budget or something like that, we sit down together and we say, okay, what are some of the terminologies that we are likely to come across? And
Right.
we sit with our deaf people who are at that level and we try to work out, troubleshoot before, we go,
Right.
difficulties. And similarly with the news, before we set foot on any television station, my girl, we got a copy of the scripts that
Right.
are available for news. And we
Right.
say, okay, what exactly should we sign for this? What exactly should, listen, I don't know nothing about sports. What do we have to sign when they're talking about and the cricket and the wicket and left side and yeah. So
Right.
we had to do a lot of sorting before we got there in order to do a good job. And
Mhm.
indeed, before we do any job, we must be there at least half an hour in advance so
Mhm.
that we're able to familiarize ourselves, hopefully, with the script. Sometimes we have to go flying blind. You have to take it and use it and change it into sign language. So it's very exciting,
Mhm.
very challenging. You have to be top of your game. You cannot go to say you're being an interpreter and you're sleepy or tired or stressed out. It's going to be difficult for you because it's a lot of mental work. And
Right.
when you're done, trust me, you feel tired,
Right.
because it is a real mental workout. But we do it because we love it and we understand the importance of it. We
Right.
know that without us, deaf people will not be able to get their messages in real time because, Lana, we said it before, deaf people speak a different language to English.
Right.
What deaf people sign is not signed English, it's a totally different language.
Right.
Therefore, when people expect deaf people to just be able to read, no, that's not how it works. Many times, deaf people come into the school system and they have already spent 6 years without anybody really being able to reach them in
Right.
terms of communicating with them, signing to them, talking to them. And you find you have to begin from, okay, if this was a baby in the womb, um, what would have been happening when he's born? Where would you begin with the language? And you have to teach. We had an expression for that, which is tabula rasa, meaning without anything,
Last
and you have to
name.
start and you have to put it in.
Mm.
And once people understand that, they would begin to appreciate a little bit more why it is such a challenge for deaf people and what we can do, which is even more important, to make sure that they are able to reach their potential and to do what they can do if we would simply make it easier, provide the opportunities, provide the supports, and move forward. So we
What
try
kind
our
of
best.
what kind of qualifications would you need to become a sign language interpreter? You made a very good point that again, sometimes you don't think about it, that the interpreter needs to be, I guess, like any language interpreter, very solid in both languages. So what kind of qualifications or skills might you need to be a sign language interpreter here in the Caribbean?
Yeah, that is a very, very important one.
Mm.
That that bit about being able to master the language. You have to be a very patient kind of person. You have to be really dedicated. You have to be willing to spend time developing your craft. You have to find taking criticism without being thin-skinned because your teachers, the best teachers, are deaf people, and deaf people can laugh at you and make you feel bad when you're citing rubbish. So, so you need to be, like I said, able to take it and to work with it and to be persistent so that you could develop to the standard necessary to be a sign language interpreter. Because listen, Anna, you have various levels of sign language interpreting, right? The very top
Mm.
is that when you're able to interpret, say, for the judicial system, you're in court,
Mm.
and then accuracy is critical, critical, critical. Because anytime you make a mistake, at that level, you're
Yeah.
talking about somebody might potentially lose their case. You're talking about a lawyer saying, excuse me, this person cannot be qualified because I asked them this and they said that and it was not in fact correct. And you understand what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right.
So judicial level and then You have sign language interpreters who function in the whole area of dealing with medicine, right? Somebody is ill, they go to the hospital. You need to have someone there who is able to understand what this person is saying because it might be literally a matter of life and death.
Right.
But do we really have that?
So you
Not
don't need any
really.
kind of degree per se. Is it just a specialized training that you need? You don't need a language, linguistic, English as a second language, or any kind of degree. You really just need to have your specialized track qualifications or so forth in sign language to be able to be a sign language interpreter.
I am so happy to say that in 2010,
Mm,
we had an organization of interpreters of Trinidad and Tobago, and
mm,
we got together. I was vice president of that organization,
mm,
and we got together and we said, no, we here in Trinidad and Tobago, we must get qualified. We must get trained. We must make it happen because it had not happened before. And we did. We worked really hard and we got in touch with two trainers of interpreters from the University of Tennessee. We worked with the Ministry of Education. They were one of our sponsors. We worked with also, beside the Ministry of Education, we had another major sponsor. That was TAHI at the time as well, Trinidad
mm,
and Tobago Association for the Hearing Impaired.
mm.
And we got to have our trainers come down and they worked with us for over a year.
Nice.
They involved, of course, our local deaf people to deal with the baseline evaluation of the interpreting skill that was present, and then set about building it, and then evaluated us, and then thank God for the first time we were in fact certified.
Mm,
But Lana, the problem is that since then, that process has not been repeated and it needs to be. We need to be able to access that training for sign language interpreters because
mm,
I could tell anybody that I'm a certified interpreter. I
mm.
am. And there are few of us in Trinidad and Tobago who are. But
Right.
we need to have ongoing training programs for sign language interpreters.
Mm-hmm.
We need to move with the times and be able to have refresher programs for sign language interpreters. But what you find happening is that because we have not had a robust body to continue that work which was started, we haven't been able to progress that much in that direction. And that is a really, really dreadful thing. We need to have that kind of training. So that when the Ministry of Education calls and says, because they have been trying, we
Mm-hmm.
need to have sign language interpreter assistants. They're called in school here and there and wherever. And they're searching and they can't find them. Now, I am not knocking the homegrown process by any means.
All right.
You find that people who are working with deaf people, who interact with deaf people, as I did, because that's what I did first, right? My really good friend was Cheryl Maniram, that's a deaf lady. And we would sit and chat lunch times and she would make sure that my signing got on point, and that's really helpful. But we do need to focus a little bit more on developing the technical. Right now, I know that at TV there's a program you can do in Caribbean Sign Language interpreting. Persons who have done it and commented on it basically said, they would like some more hands-on and things
Right.
like that. There are hopes of another program being developed soon, but we need to have more. That is the truth down here in Trinidad and Tobago. So we live in hope that that would be established. So we do have some certified interpreters here in Trinidad and Tobago, but we need to do a lot more in that area to make sure that we can have the kind of production, shall we say, of sign language interpreters that we need. So that if Lana wants to become a sign language interpreter, I would say, okay, not a problem. You go to UEX place, wherever. And you do this course for 3 years. Yeah, but no. We don't have that as yet, and we need to have it whereby people can feel confident about their interpreting skills and it reaches international standard.
Mm,
Yeah, we want that. I would say that we've been doing a pretty good job. People have been working hard in their communities, in their organizations, in their groups. And like I said, UE is doing something. But we need to have more.
mm. And with that, I thank our guest, Nicole, here for joining us on Teachers Have Issues. Yes. Thank you, Nicole Paul.
You are most welcome. It was a privilege to be here, and I must say I did enjoy speaking with you,
I
Lana.
enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I want my listeners to know that you empower minds and you ignite curiosity.
Oh my. Thank you, ma'am. I accept that.